So
So do you want me to like restart what I've done here, or?
No, you don't have to do it. Just give a demonstration of what we are going to do today.
Okay. So do you want me to like restart what I've done here, or?
No, you don't have to do it. Just yes, go ahead. I just mute the live. Yes. Did I lose you all? Yes.
All right, we good?
Yes, we are good. It's streaming.
Okay, so again, guys, so today what we're going to be designing, and I'll change my screen. We're going to be designing this, and this is a little lampshade, and I got this from a picture that I saw on the internet. And so this is perfect for code blocks, since if we were to actually design this in Tinkercad, it would take forever. We'd have to do this all manually. But the cool thing with code blocks is that here on the left, I have a loop. And so we could just create one of those objects and then just loop it around and do that a bunch of times to get different shapes here. So that's what we're going to do. This is the code that we have so far. And if I press play, all this is doing is, so let me actually go step by step. All this is doing is, first it's creating a sphere, and then it's hollowing out this sphere with another sphere by making that a hole and making it a little bit smaller, and then grouping those two. Then it's bringing out these two rectangles. It's turning them 22 degrees to the left, and then it's moving the first one a little bit to the right. So that's what we have so far. And then when you guys are done copying what we have so far, we'll continue.
Okay. So Karthik, you're done so far?
Yeah.
Okay. Nina, which line are you on?
I only put on create new objects. That's all.
Okay, so you want us to wait till you finish till here, or do you want to do it after the session? What do you want to do?
I can copy it. I can copy it, and then we can go on.
So you want us to keep moving ahead?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so let's see, where do we leave off? So we have our 3 different objects that we've made, and of course we've commented all of them. So now let's move on to the second rectangle. So we moved the first rectangle negative 20 units. So that moved it to the right, I think. So now we're gonna move this one 20 units. So this move block that we have under second rectangle, we're gonna move it 20 units on the y-axis. And so now if I press play, I should be able to see my 2 rectangles moved. So it moved our 2 rectangles, but we kind of have a problem. We don't see any of the sphere. So what we wanted to kind of get is we wanted to get a pattern here of the sphere, and we don't see that. So we're just gonna make our units more. And that's the cool thing with code blocks. If we mess up on something, all we have to do is go back and edit. So instead of 20, so up here in our first rectangle, instead of minus 20 units, we're gonna make this minus 30, and we're gonna see if that works. And then with the second one, rectangle, we're gonna also make this 30. So just positive 30. And then we'll press play. All right, so we can kind of see the little sliver, little ring that we have here, and that's perfect. So it covers the entire sphere. And so now all we have to do is we have to turn these rectangles into holes, and then we'll group everything and see what we get. So let's go up and first turn the rectangles into holes. So right now it's on solid. And so if we go to our first rectangle, under here where it says add, and we have the box icon, we're going to click on whole, so it's not a solid. And then under second rectangle, where it says add, we're going to click on whole again. So now we have two rectangles that are holes. So, and we can group all of this again, but what we can also do is we have a group here. So we had our first group, and this is what hollowed out the sphere. So what we can do is just take, I'm just going to move everything below that down, take out this group, and I'll just put it all the way under. So all I did was just move that group, and I just put it all the way under. And now it should do everything and then group it all together. All right, so I'm going to press play and let's see what we get. Awesome. So we now have our ring shape at a slant, and we did that by making a sphere and then just cutting out of it on both sides using some rectangles. Awesome. So now let's move on to actually creating the lampshade. So we have this one ring, and in order to create this shape, we have to use this and then just do it a bunch of times. So we have to rotate this a bunch of times. So in Tinkercad, what we would do is copy this, press Control D or duplicate it, and then we would rotate it and then do that again and again. So I actually measure this, and it takes about, let's see, 17 times to do this. So we have to rotate this 17 times, and that would take a long time because not only would we have to rotate it, but we'd also have to think of what angle we're gonna rotate it at again. So what we can do is we can use a loop. So we're gonna actually press create new object. So we're gonna go under modify and create new object. And this is gonna be separate from our first piece of code. So the first piece of code just made this. Now we're gonna take this and rotate it. And for this object, I'm just gonna rename it. Lampshade. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna first go under modify and I'm gonna press add a copy of. So I'm gonna just bring that out and I'm gonna say add a copy of object. And so our object is gonna be our original piece. So our original ring. So if you go under data and you see these two blue tiles, we're gonna go under original ring and we're gonna drag that out. So what it's doing is it's adding a copy of this object and it's just making another one.
Mm-hmm. Sorry to interrupt, but can you scroll it up so Nina can still see the code on top? Yes.
Yeah, I'll zoom out a little bit. All right. All right. So next, let's go ahead and add our loop. So I'm gonna bring out this loop, the second loop that we have. So in our under control, the control section, we have two different kinds of loops. And I'm gonna bring out the second one. And I'll tell you guys why. So with the first one, I'm just gonna bring this out, but you don't have to. So with the first one, it just tells us to repeat a certain number of times. But if we just repeat this 50 times, it's not gonna turn the object because there's nothing that we can tell it to turn. If we say repeat and turn 20 degrees, it's just gonna keep on repeating and turning it 20 degrees. It's not gonna do 20 and then 20 plus 20. So that might be a little confusing, but I'll show you what I mean. So let me zoom out a little bit. So under in count in our loop, we're gonna first bring out create new add a copy of object, sorry. And we're gonna add a copy of, again, our original ring. So now every time this loop runs, and it's running 10 times, it says from 1 to 10. Every time this loop runs, it's gonna be adding a copy of this object. So now we have 10 of these objects. So that's not really telling it much, So we have to tell it a little bit more. So again, we want to rotate this every time. So I'm going to go all the way up to rotate under modify. I'm going to bring out rotate and put it under add a copy of object. So now we want to rotate it, and we don't want to rotate it on the x-axis. We want to rotate it on the z-axis. So if we look, the way we want to rotate it is if you see this blue line, this is the z-axis, and we want to turn it along its center. So we're going to rotate it around this line here. So we're going to change this x to z. So we're going to say rotate around z-axis. And instead of 90 degrees, let's try a smaller number because we want it to be a little close together. So we'll try 20. And if you guys are wondering what this last setting is, degrees from pivot, that's just what we're rotating it around. So the way you do this is you would bring out this green block with the X, Y, and Z, and you would put it in here, and that's under math. And so if you wanted to rotate it around a point on your map, you could type that in here. But we just want to rotate around the origin, 0, 0. And I will show you guys later what the difference is between rotating it around 0, 0 and rotating around another random point. But for now, let's add the next piece of code. So we want to rotate around the z-axis by 20 degrees, right? So if we did this, and I'll actually run it. So how many times is this piece of code running?
10.
Yep, it's running 10 times. So how many rings should we have?
10?
Yeah, so if I run it, let's see. So what is it doing? What's the problem?
It's just taking that same ring and making it and turning it 20 degrees. So there's basically, it only looks like that there's 2 rings.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually 10 rings, but yeah, it only looks like there's 2. And the reason is because it's rotating it 20 degrees. And so it's using this same original ring, and it's just telling it to rotate 20, 20, 20. So what we want to do is we want to rotate 20 plus what we had before. So if we rotated 20 the last time, we want to rotate now 40. If we rotated 40 the last time, then we want to rotate 60. And that way it'll rotate at a constant rate. And that way we won't have what we're having here, which is it overlapping. So the way we can do that, and I know in like some programming languages, they call this the counter. And this basically, I'll show you. So in math, under math, we're gonna bring out the one that says 0 and then plus 0. So this is just something that could do an operation with 2 numbers. And we're gonna put it in where it says by. So again, it's this block here, the one that has the 0 plus 0, and we're going to put it in where it says by. So now we can do operations with 2 different numbers. So on the second one, we want to do it by multiple of 20. And I say multiple because we're going to be multiplying. So where it says plus, where it says plus, I'm going to change this to multiplication. And the multiplication one is the little star. It's the third one down. So we want to multiply 20 by a number every time. That'll give us a bigger number than the one we had before. And so the only thing changing in this loop is our variable I. So at the top we have I. And so when the loop runs one time, I is going to be 1. When the loop runs a second time, I is going to be 2. So if I put I, and if I go all the way down to data, this little blue icon where it says I, which is our variable, I'm going to drag out I, and I'm going to put it in this first block. So in this first slot. So now we have, every time it's going to take a copy of our original ring, then it's going to rotate it around the z-axis by I times 20. So what that means is when the loop runs one time, I is going to be 1, and it's going to multiply 1 times 20. So it's going to rotate it 20 degrees. When the loop runs a second time, I is going to be equal to 2, and then it's going to multiply 2 times 20 degrees, which is 40. And then when the loop runs a third time, it's going to rotate it 60 degrees. So we'll see that, and let's press play real quick. So I just paused it really quickly. So it ran the first time. So I is still 1 now. So let's see what happens when I is 2. Kind of froze. Let me see if I can. All right. So here we see what it's doing. So every time I runs, I is going to be a different value. It's going to be a value greater than what it had before. It's going to go up by increments of 1. And every time it does that, it's going to multiply that to 20. And then it's going to move it a bigger degree than what it was before. So do you guys kind of understand how that works? How it's making this pattern? And tell me if you don't, because I can explain that again.
Yes, it looks cool.
Yeah. So this is why code blocks is pretty cool, because we could do it in Tinkercad, but it would take a very, very long time.
Mhm.
So we
Coach,
just have like 4 blocks here, and we have all this. Yeah.
I basically have my whole sphere because instead of the 10, I changed it to 17. My whole sphere is ready. So can I group it?
Yeah. So again, if we look on this side, it's not complete. So yeah, I said 17 earlier, and that's how many times it would take to make that full circle. So where it says from 1 to, instead of 10, we're gonna make it 17. And so if we do that again, it'll give us our entire circle. So no, it's the entire circle, because if we look on the top, we can see the circle in the middle. So now, so like Karthik said, this isn't grouped yet. And so Karthik, how would we group all of this together?
So if you go to the modify section,
Mhm.
there should be like this option that says create group at the very, very bottom.
Yep.
You just have to drag it out after the loop.
Okay. So you say after the loop. All
Yes.
right. So we'll try that first and see what happens. All right. So awesome. We grouped it. So Karthik, another way we could do it is, what we could do is where it says create group, we could also put it inside the loop, and we could press play. So what this would do is every time we're adding a new one, it's grouping it to the one before. So both ways work, but if you just wanted to group what you had in the loop, you would put it inside the loop. But yeah, you're right. Both ways do work. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually delete my original object. So if we look up, we first created this object and we don't need it anymore. That was just kind of a template of what we were going to use to make this shape. So I'm going to go to delete object under here, and I'm going to go all the way down to data, and I'm going to delete original ring.
Nina, which line are you on? Do you need some help, Nina?
Well, I caught all the way up.
Wow, you got all.
But I caught up, but it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
Like it starts with a sphere, and then there's a bunch of rectangles, and then it just ends up with a bunch of rectangles. And
Okay, so does yours look like this? And also make sure you make certain things holes and certain things solid.
Yes, that you may have missed, Nina. See, certain things, the whole is highlighted and some are solid. So just if you fix that, it should work.
Yeah. So up here, this second sphere is a hole. And you just click on this second circle where it shows the hole. This first one is a solid, so we'll just leave it like that. Where it says first rectangle, this is a hole. And then where it says second rectangle, this is also a hole. And then when we press create group, you could do it at a random color. If I do it at yellow, it'll just make everything yellow.
It's working now, sort of. It's doing it.
Okay, so is it not working? What is it showing? Do you want to use your iPad?
It's forming it right now.
You see exactly.
Okay, it's working?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Now, yeah, we have our finished shape. So now let's add all the fine details. And if you look on this one I have here, it looks a lot, I want to say, thinner than the one we have on here.
Not as spherical.
Yeah, so it's not as spherical. So this one is like a perfect sphere. It just has little slots cut out. But this one is like this. So does anybody know how I would do that?
Oh, you use the scale tool after you group it.
Yeah, so we'd use scale, but we're not going to do that exactly right now. We're going to do something really quickly, and then we'll go ahead and do that. So first I want to kind of open up this bottom part, because if we wanted to use this on like an actual lamp, this hole might be a little too small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a sphere. So I'm going to go all the way up. Sorry, not a sphere, a cylinder. So I'm going to add a cylinder. So where it says cylinder, I'm just going to drag that out. And then of course I'm going to click on the arrow, and I'm going to change some of the dimensions of the cylinder. So for radius, I'm going to make the radius 25. Height, I'm going to change it a little bit. I'm going to just make it 30. And then sides and edges, yeah, you can keep all that the same. But what it's now done is, if we play this again, we'll have a sphere in the middle after it does all this. So we have a little big sphere here in the middle. And so let's move this down to open up this hole. So to move, we're just going to use the move tool under modify. So I'm going to go all the way down to move. And if we wanted to move this down, which axis would we want to change? Would it be X, Y?
I mean the X.
X? So you think X, Nina? Do you think the same, or do you think different?
I meant Z, not X.
Okay, Z.
Z.
So what do you think, Nina?
Oh, sorry, I was just trying to work on something.
Okay. So yeah, Karthik, you're correct. So it'd be Z. And so Z is the blue axis here. You might not be able to see it, but Z is the blue axis, and that's the one that goes up and down. So we would move Z to go up and down. We'd move Y, which is the green one here, to go left and right. And we'd move X, which is right here, to move forward and backwards. So we're going to move Z, and we want it to go down. So we're going to use a negative number. So we're going to make it minus 40. And so that's going to take it down. And again, these are just, the minus 40 is just a number I played with, and I know that it works. And also what we want to do is, so go up here where we added the cylinder, we want to make this a hole. Since we're going to be taking away, we're going to be subtracting material from the lamp. So now if we played everything, we played all together, it's going to, of course, do the pattern, add a cylinder, and it's going to move our cylinder all the way down. And now we can expand our hole by just grouping everything together. So if we go to group, create group under modify, if we bring that out and put it under move, now everything should be grouped together. And if you wanted to change your color, the color of your lampshade, you can change it here. So if I wanted mine to be green, And then let's press play and see what happens. Sometimes it might lag a little bit. You just have to kind of wait it out. There we go. All right, so it made it green and it made this hole a lot bigger. So now we have our hole bigger. We have our actual pattern. So what's next? So if we look on this original model, we have something at the top, and that's something that we could hang our lampshade by. If we got like a string or something, we could hang it with that. So that shape is, if we move up, that shape is a cone. Where's the cone? There we go, cone. So it's the cone, it's the blue one. Sorry, not the blue one, the purple one down here. So I'm just gonna drag out a cone. And actually what Karthik had said before is we should scale our object if we wanted to get it thinner like this one. So that's what we're actually gonna do first. So I'm gonna go to modify, and where it says scale, I'm gonna drag out scale. I'm gonna actually put it before the cone. So under create group and above add cone. So we're gonna have the scale right here. And if we were to go ahead and play this, the scale does nothing to our model because all the numbers are 1. So any object that you make, its scale is just automatically 1, 1, and 1 for X, Y, and Z. And 1 is just the default. So think of 1, 1 is kind of the 0 in this situation, and that's just with scale. So if we were to decrease our number, if we were to make, let's say I wanted to make X 0.5, which is half, what do you think would happen?
It would get squished halfway.
Yes. So a number less than 1 would make the object smaller on that axis. And a number greater than 1, what would a number greater than 1 do?
Make it wider than the axis.
Yeah, so a number bigger than 1 would make it bigger. So if I did just on the x-axis, if I made it 0.5. So yeah, it, like Karthik said, it squished it, it made it smaller. So you could get a bunch of cool different shapes when you do this. So this is a pretty cool shape that you could use. But I want to make it uniform. So on the X and Y axis, I want to kind of squish it the same number. So I'm actually going to make this, instead of 0.5, I'm going to make it 0.8. So 0.8 on X. And for Y, I'm going to make it 0.8 as well. And I'm not going to change Z, because what would happen if I changed Z?
It would make it taller.
So if I made Z 0.8, it wouldn't make it taller, it would make it smaller. But what would happen? Why wouldn't I want to change all 3 numbers?
Because the height.
All right, so let's play it and see. Oh. All right, so now we have that skinnier shape. So if I change Z, any predictions? So I'm gonna make Z 0.8. Nina, what do you think? What do you think would happen if I made Z the same number as X and Y?
1 second.
Okay. So if I made Z the same number, it's almost as if I didn't change anything. If it's like I just made the object smaller. So it wouldn't look different. It would just be smaller. And I'll show you what that means. So right here, I paused it really quickly. So right here, we have this shape. So I'm going to press play. And we'll give it a second.
I think you need to click the next step button.
It should be playing. I don't know. It runs really slowly sometimes. All right. So now it's finished. So I don't know if you guys caught that, but does this look like it changed at all? If like we made it skinnier or fatter?
It kind of squished.
Yeah, it just made the actual object smaller. It didn't change any one of the axes. So if we make all the numbers the same, it's just gonna make the object itself smaller. It's not gonna make it look skinnier or fatter. So if we go back and change Z to just 0, now it's only gonna change X and Y. And then we can actually see a difference in width. Uh-oh. Sorry, Z should be 1, not 0. 1 is our default. That's just gonna make it flat. We don't want that.
Frisbee.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, so now we have this shape, and that's kind of what we want. Again, you could always like change the numbers. We could play with the numbers, make it look really funky. I think in the picture they had, let's see, it looked a little bit different. It kind of coned on the top, and you could do this, but that's a little more complex. All right, so we've brought out our cone, and our cone is pointy at the top, and we don't really want that. We want our cone to kind of be flat at the top. So where it says add and we have our cone, I'm just going to click on the arrow, and we're going to change some of these settings. So right now our top radius is 0, and that's the reason why it's pointy at the top. So we're going to change our top radius. And so we're going to change our top radius to 10. And we're going to change our bottom radius to 20. We're also going to change our height, which is the next setting. We're going to change that to 30. And you can change the number of size. That'll just make it look a lot smoother, but I'm just going to leave that alone. So now what we want to do is we want to move our cone. We want to move it up so it's at the top here. So we're going to go all the way down to under modify, and we're going to go under move. And we're just going to bring it out and put it under this. And we're going to move it on the Z axis because that's how we move things up. And we're going to experiment a little bit. So let's try 60 to begin with. And we'll see if we like that number. So let's press play. So 60 might be a little too much. So I'm just gonna go down by 14. So let's try just 45. And I'm at 15. So let's try 45. That looks pretty well. So I like that shape. I like how it kind of added that. And I think I'm gonna keep that. So what we wanna also do next is after we group this, we'll run into a problem, and you won't really see it here, but let's go ahead and bring out our group. So under modify, I'm going to bring out group. And so now it should group all of that together. But if we grouped all of this together, I don't know if you guys can see, but on the inside, and it might be easier if I do this, on the inside, do you see how the cone is sticking out? So the cone is going farther down in. So it's not following the curve of our lamp. It's just going all the way down. And if we were to actually like try to 3D print this, that would probably not work because we'd have to first of all add a lot of supports, and it just probably wouldn't be good for the 3D printer. So what we can do is, of course, we can add another shape, another sphere on the inside, and we can take that material out. That way on the inside of our lampshade would be a smooth curve. So I'll show you guys what that means. So we'll go first off go up to sphere, and we'll drag out a sphere. And I should say first, we were going to delete this create group first, because we're not going to use that quite yet. We're going to add a sphere. So when we add the sphere, we're actually going to do the exact same thing we did earlier, except we're not going to used the rectangles and caught all of that. So if we look up, we made our original sphere. We gave it a 45 unit radius. So where it says radius, we're just going to make this 45 as well. And then our steps, we can make this 30. And now what we want to do is, again, we had scaled our object 0.8 for both the X and the Y axes. So we're going to go up to scale, and we're just going to scale this object as well. So we're going to scale it by 0.8 for X and 0.8 for Y. And we're going to keep Z 1. And so let's see what this would do, because it's always good to play your program and see what you're doing. Uh-oh, so I made mine 8 instead of 0.8. So 0.8, and let's play that again. All right. So if we look in, we have like, it kind of looks like an egg, but we have the inner shape. So this is, it fits perfectly on the inside of our object. So what now we could do is we could turn this inner object to a hole, and we could take out all that material. And this actually looks like an actually cool pattern that we could, if we grouped all this together, that would look cool for like an Easter egg or something. But for now, we're gonna keep it simple, and we're gonna just, on the left here, we're gonna make this a hole. And so if we play it again, it'll be a hole instead of an actual solid body on the inside. So you can almost not even see it. But if you look on the bottom, you can see it there. So now we have a hole. So if we grouped all this together, it'd be smooth on the inside. But first, before we group all that together, we want to add a hole on the top here. So if we go back here, we have a hole on the top here, and that's if we wanted to like hang it by like a string or something. So in order to do that, all we'd have to do is bring out a cylinder again. And if we click on the arrow, we can have more settings. So the radius is going to be 2, and this is going to be really small because we want our hole to be fairly small, and we want our height to be pretty big. So we can make it like 50 and hope it covers the entire length of our cone on the top. So now what we want to do is we want to rotate our cylinder. So if we press play right now, we have a cylinder here on the top, and we want to add a hole horizontally on the cone. So we want to rotate this 90 degrees. So we're going to go down to modify, and where it says rotate, we're going to bring out rotate and put it under this. And we're actually going to be rotating around the Y axis. So where it says X, we're going to rotate around Y. And we're going to keep the 90 the same. And where it says degrees from pivot, we'll just not put anything there. If you don't put anything, it assumes that you're rotating around 0, 0, 0, which is the origin, which is the center, which we are. So we'll just keep that empty. And so now if we press play, it rotates our object on the inside. Now all we have to do is move it up and of course turn it into a hole. So I'm gonna go down under modify, I'm gonna press move. I'm gonna drag it under here and we're gonna move it. If we wanted to move it up, which axis would we move it up? X, Y, or Z?
Z.
Yep, because Z is the one that is vertical. The Z is the one that moves up and down. So we're gonna type in, again, we can always play with these numbers. So let's try 60. And let's see if it goes to a position that we like. My screen went black. Did it do that for you guys?
No.
I can't see, I literally can't see my screen. On the right, it's black.
I have my lampshade created fully. I'm done.
Oh, you're done?
Yep.
Okay. Let me try to go into another tab. All right, yep. So it saved everything I did. All right, so if we play this, let me increase the speed. All right, so it moved our cylinder up, and I think that's a little too much because it's not even in the cone. So we'll change this number from 60. Let's try, I don't know, 45. Let's try 45 real quick. Okay, 45 is too small. So let's try 55. This is all just trial and error sometimes. All right, that's a little bit better. Let's maybe make it a little smaller. So let's just try 50. 50 looks a little too small too. This is all trial, so 52. All right, 52 looks good. All right, so now let's go up where it says add cylinder. We're just gonna make this a hole instead of a solid. And now, if we play it all together, it should be a hole. Yep. So now all we have to do is group all of our objects and we are pretty much done. So under modify, we're gonna press create group and we're gonna drag that out. And whatever color you want your final lamp to be, if you wanna keep it multicolored, you could do that. So if I wanted to make my cone at the top here blue and my actual lamp green, I could do that. I press play.
It takes a while to group for me too.
Yeah, when you start doing a lot of complex programs, it takes some time. All right, so yeah, mine finished. And so if we look on the inside, it's a perfect cylinder on the inside. All of that is cut out because we added that other cylinder, and we're pretty much done. So we have our final lampshade. And the cool thing with code blocks is if we did this in Tinkercad, which we could do, but it'd take a long time, we couldn't really go back and edit this. So let's try some cool things. If I wanted to go back and let's say instead of 17 rings, and you don't have to do this, I'm just doing this, but instead of 17, let's say we wanted to do, I don't know, let's say we wanted to do 4. And then instead of 20 degrees, we wanted to do 90. So let's see what that would do. So that'd create this weird shape, which I don't think you could even use. But that's interesting that we can change our numbers and create something cool. So let's try 10 and let's try 45 degrees.
That looks cool.
Yeah, so we're kind of getting different shapes. And of course, like at the bottom here, it kind of looks a little raw. So you could go back and edit that. But if it's something that we wanted to change, we could always go back and do that because we have all of our programs here. And I didn't really comment at the end here, but you could always go back and add comments. Like if you wanted to add a cylinder or top hole, you could do that. And like in the loop, you could say loop of original. And you could just add comments so you know what you're doing the next time you come back and look at this program. So yeah, we could change a bunch of things and completely change this model just by touching a couple different numbers. And yeah, that's pretty much how you can make a cool lampshade.
That's
Do you
so
guys want to share what yours looks like? And maybe even like try to change it up and change it to something different?
Yes, please.
All right, so let me stop sharing real quick.
I don't know why, but it's lagging.
Yeah, it does that a lot.
So that's my lampshade.
Nice.
I decided to make it gray because mostly all modern things are gray and white for some reason.
Modern things?
Yeah, like all the things that are modern. Like if you look up on the internet, like modern houses,
Mm-hmm.
furniture, they're gonna be like black and white and gray.
Interesting.
So,
All right, do you want to try to like change a setting and see what it does?
sure. What if I count from this to 3? What would that do?
It'll just decrease your number. So since you're not going from 1 to 17, it'll be from 3 to 17. So
Oh,
what's that? It's only going to run 15 times instead of 17 times.
oh,
But
I
if you see where it says by, if you change that number, that'll change your outcome. So if you did it like by 3, yeah, so do it by 3. So you're not going to see as many of the rings.
oh, that looks cool.
Yeah, on the top, it kind of looks like a little like an atom.
That just looks cool.
Yeah, so when you're going like by 3, instead of going 1, 2, all the way to 17, it goes 1, and then it goes 4 because it's adding 3 every time.
awesome.
Try changing the degree.
Oh,
Good job, Karthik.
all right. Thank you.
Yeah, Nina, did you were you able to finish?
Yeah, I did. If you want, I can show you it.
Yeah.
Nina, next year you're going into 3rd grade. Is that right?
I think you're muted.
Wow.
That's fine.
It's so cool, Nina. Good job, Nina.
Oh
Cool.
wow, I like your colors. I like the purple.
How did you catch up so quick? You missed 30 minutes of class. How did you catch up?
I don't know. I just did.
She's an
Wow,
expert designer, that's why.
that is nice. So have you been playing around with Tinkercad? Nina, did you take
What?
some time this week to play with the code blocks?
I just tried to follow along. Yeah, I did mess with it a little bit. I
Nice.
tried 22, and I tried for like how many rings it was. I tried 22. I tried 16.
That
Yeah.
is cool. So you're going into 3rd grade next year, right, Nina? Is that correct? You are in 2nd grade right now, right? Okay, the connection is lagging a little bit. That is nice that you're able to catch up. Perfect. So mine, I did exactly like what you had. A exact version of what you said. Same colors, same everything.
Ooh,
Yes.
nice.
Yes.
Coach K, I couldn't really hear what you were saying. It broke up a little bit.
I was just amazed. You're just in second grade and you're doing all this great designing. So I just wanted to make sure. Okay. That is cool. So this is our last 3D designing class for level 1. And if you all like it, if you want more of it, then we can do a level 2 starting from next week. And in level 2, what can we expect, Aid? What do you think? What else you can challenge them with?
More of like this kind of stuff, like making like I guess like gears and like actual like parts. And I mean, with Tinkercad, like it'll take a while, but you can do some pretty intricate stuff. Like you can, there's some like objects that you can like edit and kind of make like that are not like the traditional like box and stuff. So there's a couple things you can do different. They're just like time consuming, I guess.
Wow. Okay, so thank you so much for introducing us to 3D designing. This is really great. And I think with this, they'll take it to the next level, students, right, Karthik? Right, Nina? You'll play around with it, right?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, then thank you so much. And it's the video has been already posted on YouTube, and there are few people watching it from YouTube and from Facebook too. So thank you so much. You're taking Shiva Robotics to the next level. You're taking it to the global audience. So it's been a really successful course, right?
Awesome.
Yes. Thank you, Ayub. Bye, Nina. Bye, Karthik.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Yes, of course. Right? I'll keep you posted, okay, for next week's class. Bye.